Welcome to the WWSD podcast. We like to interview interesting and creative people every week. We are sponsored by Collectors Maze. You can check them out at collectorsmaze.com for all things related to fandom. I'm your host, Josh, and as always, I'm joined by my buddy Seamus. How's it going, Seamus?
Going great, man.
That's
How are you
great to
doing?
hear, buddy. I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, we actually got a pretty cool guest tonight. I know we usually say it every week, but this one's actually really cool. He's our first comic book artist. We've done comic writers in the past. We've done animators, but never like anyone that's actually done comic art. So it's kind of interesting for us. He actually recently did the covers for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin. Pretty dope cover. I thought it was awesome, really cool looking. But I'm proud to introduce Jason Flowers. How you doing, Jason?
Good, thanks, guys. How you doing?
Doing
We're
great.
good. So, how did you get into doing comics? I mean, is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one? Is that like the biggest thing you've worked on?
Licensing wise, I'd say my biggest achievement so far is getting some turtle covers. So I've done two so far. I'm going to be doing a third one.
Oh, nice.
Hopefully, it should come out by the end of the year. We'll see. The first one was a retail cover for from Epicos Comics. Shout out to them for issue number 99 of the regular series. And then I did for also Epicos, we did a retail exclusive number 1 cover too. So then I'm going to be doing a cover number 5, but that's not with Epicos. It's with a different company. I don't.
So the comics are published by IDW, right?
Correct.
And then what's this Epicos thing? Like, is that just a
lot of shops do this. They have this ability where you can do like retail exclusives, where the companies such as IDW or Marvel or anyone will allow you to, for a certain amount of money, you can buy like 500 copies of and have like an exclusive cover for your shop.
Okay.
And so Epicos is one of those covers for issue 1, and like I said, issue 9. They've done tons of different covers for other issues. They did Turtles 100 and Zombie Tramp and like tons of Scout and Aftershock and other IDW stuff. But for me, I was like, I told them, like, get Ninja Turtles. I want Ninja Turtles. I'm obsessed with Ninja Turtles. Make sure I'm the one drawing the turtle cover.
So you're an old Ninja Turtles fan then?
Oh yeah, I've been obsessed since I was a little boy, and it's always been a dream to try to work on it. Of course, I mean I've submitted my portfolio to IDW a couple of times, and I've gotten some emails for editors, so to speak. But the 99 cover was my first full, like, getting to do something for IDW/Turtles, and then getting to do the Ronin number 1 for Teenage Mutant Turtles came out. Like I knew I was like, I have to get on this somehow, and we managed to squeeze in there and get a cover. So it was really awesome. It's really awesome.
That is awesome, man.
And how do they actually like approach you for that kind of thing? Like, are you on staff with that company, like, to do covers, or?
Well, like I said, so the way like a retail cover will work is like, I don't know per se with IDW if they have certain artists on staff that you could hire and do the cover for you. But most retail shops, what they do is there might be a local artist, or they might know a really well-known artist, and they'll have them do a cover for the book, and then, you know, have them ink it and color it, or hire a colorist, and they all kind of like collate together to get the cover made. But it's the same thing as if, like, they then submit it to IDW, and then they approve it, and then send it to Viacom and make sure that they approve it. As Viacom, since the IDW is licensing Viacom, or licensed from Ninja Turtles is licensed from Viacom to IDW. Woo.
There you go.
But so yeah, so there's a lot of approval steps, and then once approved, then the final cover is drawn and then submitted again to make sure there's no changes or anything they can't show or not show.
All right. So what if? So tell me if I heard this correctly. So you're doing work for the retail shop, and the retail shop is submitting the work that you've done for them to IDW.
Correct. And
Correct.
then there'll be like a limited edition amount of that cover per
Okay.
shop. So they usually, like when number 100 was coming around, they ended up doing like a ton of covers, but with the Last Ronin, they've kind of really restricted a lot of that, and so now they're limiting a lot of the stuff on how many covers are coming out. So it's a lot harder now to get it for at least the Last Ronin.
So the artwork that you did for the Last Ronin #1, was that their idea that you drew, or was it they just kind of gave you like, hey, just go crazy with it, do whatever?
Well, yeah. So with the 99 cover, it was an idea that the shop had first, and it was kind of
That's
like
the one with like the outside
border,
edge, right?
yeah, with like the Marvel style
characters.
border with all the characters. But with the Ronin one, it was kind of like, do what you want to do. We know you know Turtles more, so you do that. And which I felt that was a little more freeing. I'm very excited. I was very excited to get the 99 cover, trust me. And it was awesome getting to draw all those characters on that border, but it wasn't the idea I wanted, you know. But I mean, again, that's fine. I got to do a Last Ronin cover, and it was the idea I wanted, and he loved it, and we submitted it, and they were perfectly fine with it too. So.
Oh, so you didn't have any revisions or anything?
No, I was really worried because I've got like an arrow sticking through his leg, and you know, stuff all over him, and he's all beat up and bleeding, and I didn't know how much wiggle room they were going to allow for that, because sometimes they're very cool with it, and other times they're like, you can't put this on a cover. So like I've seen where like there was one cover where I think it was a wraparound, and it had all the characters on it, and I think it was around for like issue 50 or something, and they had April O'Neil, like cartoon April, in it, and they had to like edit her out. They weren't allowed to have that version of her in.
Oh, is it like the one from the cartoon?
Right.
Is this, because was that for licensing reasons?
Yeah, I think so. But I mean, you know, I've done like Marvel and like Topps cards and stuff, and like Marvel cards, we would have the similar thing where they would send us a packet, and it'd be like, you can't have the characters with realistic guns or smoking or drinking, and you know, like weird things that, you know, they were doing in the comics years ago, but they don't want now. So it's interesting.
It is interesting.
Doing licensed work.
So let's rewind a little bit and start. How'd you actually get involved? Did you go to art school? Like, what's kind of your backstory?
What's your origin story? Yeah.
So I've been obsessed with drawing since I was a little boy, and I was one of those products of daycare. So I grew up pretty much mainly in daycare, you know, 5 days a week and all summers until I was like 12. And I think a kid came, and I think it was like 8 years old or something, and he brought a stack of Wolverine. I'll never forget it. Wolverine Mark Silvestri comics, and that was it. I was just obsessed. I wanted to draw comics. I needed comics, so any kind of comic I could get. And being in the early 90s, you know, the biggest craze was like Jim Lee and X-Men and Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man. So, you know, those big heavy hitters. So like those were heavy influences on me, especially when they like left and started Image and all that stuff. So I started drawing from there, and I've just always made my own comics, and just over the years just started setting up at shows. I've been setting up shows since I was like 15, like local conventions, and then moved to bigger ones, and then suddenly it became this huge thing that shows and pop culture was cool. And yeah, so I just started touring more and doing that stuff. But it was probably 5 years ago that I kind of like looped back around to making comics again. So I kind of got caught up with all the like making like drawing prints and characters and doing stuff that was fun, but just not what I wanted to do. So I've always made my own comics, and so I kind of brought that back around and started making comics again and kickstartering them and getting them published. And Caliber Comics, who was a big publisher in the late 80s, early 90s. They're a big indie publisher, and they're still around, and they picked up my latest graphic novel back in 2019, so we put that
Nice.
out. And then I just started a new book called Bounty Bullfrog that I just kickstarted back in September, and the first issue's out now. So
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
yeah, I'm self-publishing that one right now. I'm kind of looking for a publisher from some of the like bigger, smaller indie labels, but
So
just keep going.
is that are you doing that like a kind of a print on demand thing for
So
publishing? Or?
well,
Or just
yes,
a Kickstarter.
yeah, mainly with the Kickstarter, and then I printed a certain amount of books for the people who bought them, and then
Right.
a certain amount over. And I didn't want to print too much because if I'm looking for a publisher, then I don't want them to know that like I'm sitting on 2,000 books that I'm going to try to get rid of, you know. So I made a certain amount for the Kickstarter backers, plus a little extra to take to shows, since I knew they were going to be starting back up. And so yeah, I just made a certain amount to make sure that I'm not over printing and sitting on a lot of inventory too.
Gotcha. So when you were so you said you started doing shows when you were 15. What kind of material did you have that when you were doing the shows at the beginning? What was that like?
Well, again, just I made my own comics, and back then I had the giant portfolio to walk around with. So I've got this giant portfolio with giant sleeves, and I was drawing on 11 by 17. You know, I read anything I could. Like Wizard magazine was pretty big back then, so they were the like main go-to people of like telling you like what you need to do and the tools and all that fun crap that you don't really need now, because you know most people do traditional or half do traditional and half do digital. So anything's a tool. And I always had like my own comics. And then when I was at a show one day, and back then, you know, they were like every 3 or 4 months. Shows weren't like they are now, where there's one every week or 5 every weekend.
Pick a state.
Back in my day,
Yeah.
they you know, you had them every 3 or 4 months. And so to me, I'm like 13, 14, going to these shows, and it was the coolest thing to me. Like, and no one at school was really into that. And there's like maybe 1 or 2 kids that like liked comics. But when I was around 15, yeah, we set up. My buddy and I went, and there was an empty table near the end of the day, and we set up our little portfolios to just show people our art. And a lot of people came to the table, and they were just kind of surprised that there was like a 15-year-old and some 15-year-olds drawing their own comics. And the owner of the little convention was like, do you want to set up each time? So I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So I started making sure that I had like my own comics printed, and I would go to Office Depot and print them all up and cut and paste and copy and do like it. Oh, they're crappy looking, but it was fun. It was raw, like it's raw indie. It wasn't, back then it wasn't print on demands everywhere where all these print shops are willing to print your books. It's like, you went to a print shop and was like, can you print this? They look at you like you were on crack or something. So yeah, I learned how to make it myself and I'd go to Office Depot and I'd print them all up and then take them to the show, and we'd set up and sell our comics. And then that just kind of grew from there to like, I think there was it was called Kebco Toy and Comic Show. So he had those every like once a month. So I would also go there. My dad would take me, we'd set up, I'd sell my comics and just try to.
What part of the country were you doing this in back then?
Oh, I'm from like the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Okay.
Where are you guys from?
Florida.
We're down in
Southwest Florida.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I actually love Atlanta. It's one of my favorite towns. I used to go there at least once or twice a year. Pre-COVID.
Yeah.
So you did mention your dad. So your parents were pretty supportive with this. Were they drive you to these conventions?
Dad was pretty supportive of a lot of it. You know, mom would take me to the comic shop occasionally here and there, but he was more supportive about it than she was. But I
mean, did they see it as like a career or more like a hobby?
I think back then it was still that whole like mentality of like Like you're not going to make a career out of this. You know, like
Yeah.
like they never came out and said, no, you can't do this. But it
But they
was
definitely
never
dissuade
like,
you.
yeah, it was never like, it was more like you just got to make sure you can support yourself doing this. And for a long time, it wasn't until I did, like, I think I was working retail for like 10 years and almost 10 years. And I hated it. I hated it. And I had this crappy manager who let me go for no reason. And it was around 2012. I want to say it was 2012. And I got let go, and I called my now wife, and I was like, at the time she's my girlfriend. I was just like, you know, I hate this guy, and it was like, because I just came back from doing MegaCon, and it was like one of my best shows ever, and I had made more money there than what I would make in a paycheck for like 2 months.
Oh man.
And I was just like, okay, so we either try doing art full time and see where it goes, or, you know, I go get another shitty job. And, you know, knock on wood, it's been doing great. So I've been doing art full time for next February will be 10 years.
Oh
So
wow.
it's been pretty
So what was that like when you got let go, and you're like, well, I got to make a decision now. So how did your life change at that moment, like when you started going like into art full time?
it I think it was all like almost, I wouldn't say destiny fully, but it was kind of like you're at this fork, and it was like I had a choice, like I said, and
Give me a
like,
sign kind of thing.
yeah, it was like, well, I have all this retail experience, so I know how to hustle, and I know how to like
Talk to people.
because like I can't tell you how many people I've gone up to going, I love your stuff, this is really cool, and they're just like, thank you. I'm just gonna go back, and they just disappear, and you're like, okay, well, did I see something? And they're just very shy, and that's, you know, some people are like that. It's fine, but you got to have someone who can, you know, upsell your stuff. And I kind of already knew how to do that because, like I said, by the time that had happened, I'd been going to shows for like at least 10 or 15 years setting up. So like I kind of already knew what to do. Yeah. And it was kind of like, do I want to do this? And so now I just got to make sure that I'm working all the time to put my name out there and get people notice. And back then, people weren't on social media as much as they are now. And it was a lot of like pushing my art and just getting my name out there and just trying to find shows. Again, it was like, how can I find a show this weekend or next weekend or 2 months from now? And is this something, and just testing them all. Like that was probably the hardest part, was seeing like what worked and going, oh my God, like this was a horror mistake to come to this show where they claim that, you know, they got 4,000 or 5,000 people last year, and you see like 200 maybe tops show up, and you're like, guys are full of it. So I've done a couple like that, but you kind of learn, and then having to learn like what months are good and what months are bad for conventions. And so there was a lot of like learning that went into it, and kind of learning the ropes of just being a traveling artist, so to speak.
So did you have like a network of artists that you were friends with that could help like tell you this one's good, this one's bad? So you were all kind of doing on your own?
Back then, like I said, back then shows were just starting up. So it wasn't like it is now, where like you go down Artist Alley and everyone is doing prints. And I don't mean that disrespectfully to anyone who does fan art. I still do fan art. I love fan art. But back then when I was doing it, it was few and far between. Like you went down Artist Alley and you barely saw anyone who was doing fan art. And I was one of those few guys. And so I think the first couple of years, it was actually really good money. And then it just, you know, started kind of evening out, so to speak, in terms of like, okay, I know now, because for a couple of years it was like, if I go to this show, I know I'm going to make even more money. And then it started leveling out to, okay, well, I know what to expect, how much money I'm probably going to make doing this show. And if I do this one instead, I can probably make this much more, you know what I mean? So a lot of picking and choosing, but that networking of talking to other artists and getting their opinions and their views and like what works for them on certain things, like I said, that didn't come for a couple of years. And again, because barely anyone was doing it back then. It was a lot of vendors selling toys or products or weapons and stuff like that. So it wasn't how it is now. But
And you said you're at these events, you're selling books mostly. Are those books that you still actively print now, or are they kind of like in a reserve catalog?
well, it was probably like, mainly when I first started, it was a little bit of like my own little sketchbooks and comic books, like I said. But over the years, sadly seeing, I would say, that fan art kind of outweighed the comic book aspect of things, and unfortunately, in a way, still does on a lot of factors these days. It just financially, you know, to support a family, because my wife has Crohn's disease, so she stopped working for like many years. And so not only was I doing these shows, but I was trying to also support her, and then I also had a daughter. So there was just a lot of responsibility to make sure that I was succeeding as the best I can. So prints, it just made more sense money wise to like focus on making the art prints than it was to making comics, because comics, like, especially when you're making them by yourself, it takes a very long time. And you know, I can't tell you how many times I wish I had like a super crew where I just do one little part and I could just pass it off to someone else and then worry about, you know, the following issue coming up. But instead I'm having to do everything. So a book can take me like 3 to 4 months or longer if I have to do like shows or commissions or other work. And so thinking about that, and then printing that up, because again at the time, Kickstarter and Indiegogo, these crowdfunding sites weren't around. So like, you printed a book, like that's your own money, and you hope the hell you sold it.
Break even at the very least.
You're sitting on a lot of, and back then they were super expensive too. So like, you know, printing your own books costs a lot of money, and that was a big investment, as opposed to like printing 20 prints for $10 a piece and selling out at a show. So
what were your more popular prints back then? What were you doing?
A lot, like big on the horror too. I'm a huge horror fan. I love horror and sci-fi. So a lot of horror prints were big. Ninja Turtle prints, obviously, no drawings. Mainly stuff like that. Yeah, I kind of sticked with like that, and Power Rangers. A lot of the old pop culture stuff that I grew up with and loved. So just kind of hit those nostalgic buttons for a lot of people for a long time.
So you've been making most of your money doing shows, doing fan art and prints and things like that. Were you always looking for other avenues of revenue as well, like throughout this whole time?
Yeah, I mean, well, I would do those. I would do the shows, and I would do the prints, and then I would do sketches at shows too. That's how you can tell the artists from the people who are just, see, there's a whole world. Let me explain. So sometimes the frustrating thing is when you're at a show and you see the guy set up and he's selling some really cool art, and then you find out he's just a dude who's helping out the real artist who's in a different show, you know, 8 states over, and he's got 4 other dudes at 4 other shows who are helping sell all his prints. And it's like, man, like, I was really hoping to talk to the artist and not, you know, some dude he hired to hopefully, you know, make some prints. But I got way off subject of your question. What was your question?
I was kind of interested in like kind of like how you interact in this world as like an entrepreneur as well, and like looking for different streams of revenue.
Right,
If you
right,
found
right.
anything interesting along that journey.
Well, it did lead to stumbling upon doing some cards for Tops
Mhm.
cards. So I
Yeah,
ended up
there were sketch cards, or were they
yeah,
the
yeah,
actual? Okay.
they started bringing back sketch cards, and
Mhm.
they got the license rights to Mars Attacks,
Okay.
and I love Mars Attacks. So I like drew up some sketch cards, and I think I like posted it on like the Facebook page of like the Tops group or something. I can't remember what happened, but somehow I ended up getting an email, and I got on the set. So I did a ton of cards for them, and I wanted to make sure that they liked it and wanted me back for something else. And then they messaged me and were like, "Do you want to do Star Wars?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I did a ton of Star Wars cards for probably about 3 or 4 years. I did sketch cards, and then I just got burnt out because I was doing conventions. Like I said, I was doing conventions, and then I'd get these sets where they would give you like 100 cards, so you would have to like pencil, ink, and color 100 different cards, and then send them back. And
And these are the cards that are unique and all, right? Each one of your
yeah,
sketch
so they'd
cards
be like
is
one of a
yeah,
kind
well, yeah.
cards, and they would put them randomly in card
Mhm.
packs. People would
Damn.
buy them, and so that was really cool for a long time. And then Marvel, not Marvel, Upper Deck cards, somehow someone got a hold of me and my email and asked me if I want to do some Marvel Premiere stuff, and I ended up doing some Marvel Premiere cards, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy and Avengers 2, and I think I did Clerks, and then my last final, like, I don't want to do sketch cards anymore kind of thing was Aliens. I did Aliens.
Oh wow.
Okay.
So I kind of begged for the Upper Deck ones for that. I was like, give me Alien. I want to be on Alien. I love
I've seen some of
Alien.
your xenomorphs and all day. They're pretty dope. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I love Xenomorphs. So I kind of begged for that one. They were like, all right, can you do Clerks? And I'm
Like
like,
Kevin
do
Smith Clerks.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like, I guess like an anniversary edition or something. So I was like, how many do you need me to do? And he's like, 10. I was like, I'll do 10. I was like, but I want to be on Alien. And so that's how I got that. And of course, the second I stopped doing Tops cards, they get Ninja Turtle cards.
Oh man.
But whatever.
You go back with your towel between your legs, like begging for Ninja Turtles.
Well, they switched art directors, and I actually emailed them. I'm like, I want to do Turtle cards, and no one replied. But, you win some, you lose some.
So the actual sketch cards, you said they make you kind of do like 100 of them. Like, how much does that realistically pay? I mean, you don't have to go into your real financials. Is it good pay, decent pay, shit pay? Because I know the sketch cards get really expensive. Like my buddy opened one for Adventure Time. I think he sold it for like $1,200 and all a sketch card. So I know they get up there. So I was just kind of curious.
It's like that double-edged sword where it's just it's a nice thing to have on like your resume, and then but at the same time, like, it's shit pay, and like it's bad. It's bad, but it was just one of those things where that was just a little bit of revenue to also help offset a bad show or something like that. I think the part that sucked to me was the fact that, like, you'd have to do all these cards, they give you the deadline, and then it would be another couple of months before they even paid you. So
Oh wow.
yeah,
Jesus.
so it'd be almost 6 months between sets sometimes before you'd get paid, because
That's crazy.
they'd give you 3 months, and then they legally would tell you they had up to 30 to 60 days to pay you, and blah blah blah. So you sometimes have these long stretches.
So you do all of them, and then you kind of send them their way, and then like a few months later they send you a check kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tops was a little more lenient on like what they took, whereas Upper Deck, like with the Marvel stuff, I would do 50 cards, and then they would send them in, and then Marvel people would have to approve those cards. So sometimes I might get 35 back that they only approved. So
Wow.
I had to eat 15 cards that they didn't pay me for. And then it was just stuff like that. Just kind of like, it just burned me out. And then I would get hounded by people who were like, how did you do it? How did you get in? How did you get to Tops? How did you get this? And then like, they would be like, I hooked a couple friends up, like, okay, you know, I don't know how you got this email, but you got this dude's email, and then suddenly they disappeared for your life, and they weren't around, and it's like, wow, okay, so you just used me to just
Get in.
get
Yeah.
in on this, and that kind of hurt. So
That's
you
shitty.
know,
Yeah.
it really is. It's just like you find all these people that I just want to be friends. I'm like, you're my friend. And then you find out they're just like, yeah. Oh,
So
what's
quick
that?
side note, what's that Topps email?
I don't even think the guy works there. I don't even know. Like I think I found out on like a forum group that the guy wasn't even working there, which is another reason probably why no one responded to my turtle email. But it was, yeah. So that, and then suddenly it became this thing where like they were always looking for artists. So I just kind of jumped off. Like it was just like not my thing anymore. And just something about like it ate at me a little bit too, like looking at all these like cards that were like, you know, 2.5 by 4 inches, whatever the size of a sketch card is, and going like I just did 100 of these, and that's 100 panels that I could have made on a comic. You know what I mean? Like
Because each one's unique and all, like they have to be relatively unique from each other.
yeah.
So it's a lot of work.
Yeah, like there would be days where like I would just be sitting and I'd just pencil the whole day, and then like 100 cards, and then I'd just go through inking the next day, and then I'd have all these because I watercolored all mine. A lot of people use color markers, and my dumbass was like, I'll watercolor them, and so I would watercolor all these and just go green, orange, red.
That's so miserable sounding.
Yeah. I've got several pictures posted from it, but it was very tedious but rewarding at the same time, especially if it was a set or something I really enjoyed. But yeah, that was another one that I would do to kind of bring in more money. I tried the venture of drawing. I had a couple of people approach me to make their own comics, and I was totally fine with it until they turned weird and psycho on me. So it like, yeah,
what do you mean?
Well,
don't have to call anyone out, but like, what's the behavior?
One guy, I won't name names, obviously.
Yeah.
Just to be respectful.
Yeah, of course.
Like there was one guy that was fantastic. He had this comic. I was super pumped for it. I was having fun drawing it. He paid me every 5 pages, you know, in advance. No problem. Everything was cool. Got to the end, like it was a 25-page comic. I was so excited. I was like, all right, so what do you want to do with this? And he was just like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. You know, I might do something. I might print it. I might not.
Jesus.
And I was like, what? Like, no, we got to print this, man. Like, you know, we need to print this. And I just never heard back.
Oh, wow.
Like, so he never wanted the original art. So I've got like a 25-page comic somewhere in my studio of some dude's comic character, and it's 25 pages, original art, just sitting. And I can't I can't be like, look what I did. I mean, I showed it a couple of teases because
I mean, are you under an NDA for it, or like how does that work?
He just
because he owns the
rights. Yeah, he owns the character. So like I can't make my own comic from it. I can't do anything with it. Like,
can you sell the original art still, or?
I mean, I probably could. I mean, it's been like almost 10 years, but
geez.
But yeah, I was so crushed by that, because I was like, I was really excited for this, and he just was like, just some dude who wanted someone to draw his comic, and I'm grateful for it because it paid my bills and kept me going. And you know, I helped him see his vision or whatever, but in the end result kind of sucked because
no
one's gonna enjoy it.
Can't show anybody. Like,
I've actually heard that before, not just with comics, but with like commissioned art, even like short films and videos. People will like pay full productions to like these videos, and they'll just never release them and all. And it's just like, it's such a weird thing. But I guess if you got the money for it and it's yours, I mean, do whatever you want.
It reminds me, I don't know if you guys ever watched, have you guys ever seen Toast of London?
No.
Oh, okay. No. It's hilarious. It's a British comedy, but he's this weird actor, and he Matt Perry.
Okay.
What We Do in the Shadows and some other shows. Anyway, so he was paid to do that, where like he got hired by this huge European director who had tons of money, and then the director ended up dying at the very end, and like so nothing got made, nothing got produced, nothing was shown and released, so it was just kind of like a waste of his time. So but yeah, that sucked. It was one of those things where I was really excited about, and then I tried doing another comic with another guy, and he just got weird about his book, and he just kept changing stuff on me, and the end result ended with like a very big headache. And he did print it, but he was very amateur in terms of like finding an actual person who could letter. And it was no offense to the person who did letter the book, but it was just a lot of poor decisions on like, you know, making a comic. And the end result, like I've got like 10 copies somewhere hidden away, where every once in a while I'll find it and I'll come across and I'm like, oh no.
It's like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like you have that archive. He's like stash it away.
Yeah, this needs to just go into far away. But it's also like that poster like George Clooney has of Batman and Robin to kind of remind him that it's not always about money. I'd heard that he's got like some poster for every movie.
That's awesome.
Of Batman. I don't know how true that is, but he's got Batman.
I've never heard that, but that's fantastic. That's
to remind him it's not always about the money. And I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get to a point in your life where like it's no longer about the money, but I'm sure like a younger person, you might have just like, yeah, fuck it, I'll do anything for money.
Right.
Like,
well, and I think it's good in a way too, because it's a like learning what not to do and not to always go with it because of that money aspect. And so you know, after that I was just kind of like, nope, no more.
Now do you have a problem, like, because I know you write and do your own art as well, like is it hard following someone else's like writing, or you don't really mind?
No, I mean it wasn't the writing aspect. It was like little things, like the way I would work was he sent me the entire script. It was like, I think it was 25 pages.
Okay.
And then I would break it up, pay me in 5-page increments. And what I would do is I'd send him thumbnails in advance. He'd approve them, then I would draw them.
Okay.
Right. So we were nearing the end, and he had mentioned that he wanted to add a couple extra pages. And I was like, sure, whatever, you know, that'd work out. Let's add like another 5 to kind of smooth out that story so it's not jumbled near the end. And he failed to tell me that he had sent me, or he had rewrote the ending.
Oh.
And so when he sent me those new pages, he had rewrote a couple of pages before that too, and didn't tell me that part. So when he sent me the script, I thought I'm just getting 4 new pages, not 4 new pages plus a couple of rewrites for some pages coming up. So when I sent him the thumbnails from the script I was going off of, he had already approved them, and I drew them, and he's like, these look great, but this isn't the new pages that I rewrote. So it was like like, do I just eat this and just go, fine, I'll redraw them, or do I, you know, start a fight with him and be like, well, you're gonna have to pay me for new pages because you approved these thumbnails.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I just didn't know, like I just thought they looked good. And I was just like so it was one of those where like I just ate it and was like, fine, whatever. And I did a lot of cut and pasting and tweaking pages to kind of fit his new designs, but just frustrating things like that. I don't mind working with people. With the new book I'm doing, Bounty Bullfrog, that was one of the things where I actually released the reins to a colorist. So I got a colorist named Jeremy Mendez, who's helping.
You also did all your own coloring as well?
Yeah. So, well,
oh wow.
For those 2 books I was just referring to, that all that was just black and white art.
Okay, gotcha.
For the books that I've been publishing a lot, I've been doing like, I did one that was like grayscale tones, kind of like Walking Dead comics are still publishing.
I think were is the right word.
And then I've started coloring my own stuff too. But with this book, to free up more time to be able to work on the pages and give them the love that they deserve, I had to release that to someone who understood it a lot better than I did. So like I think I'm pretty decent at coloring, but obviously this is a person who knows the color palette better and like what works better and that kind of thing. So
Was that really hard giving out those type of reins, or you just had to like pull the band-aid off?
I'm one of those, like, I think it's just because I'm just so used to, like, even in high school, I would get buddies who were like, let's make a comic together. And I'd be like, cool. And he'd be like, you draw it and then I'll ink it. And I'm like, all right. So I did these detailed pencil pages, and then he would do like 1 or 2 pages and kind of flake out. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to ink it. So I started inking my own stuff and going, F that, I'm not going to do this. So I've actually learned from high school to just do like really rough pencils and go straight into inks. So like I pencil ink my own art that way. And it kind of was like that for coloring. It was especially doing color prints for these shows. Like I could pay artists to color them and they would do a great job, but you know, I couldn't afford to do that for every piece. So it just made more sense to learn how to pick up the trait myself. And the same with lettering and putting out, you know, designing the book and all that stuff. So it just made more sense to me to just learn how to do it alone than to have someone tag along. So trying to do this with him, plus he lives in Brazil, so the language barrier is a little off. So there'd be times where I'm like, I need you to color it this way, and I couldn't tell if he didn't understand me or didn't want to do that, and I would be like, no. So I'd have to like figure out and just kind of like release myself from being so anal retentive about having a specific way, and just kind of like give myself up to that.
Do you plan on like releasing more like with the lettering and stuff like that, or like maybe
I hired a letterist for the book too, again, just
okay,
to make it faster for me. And so a lot of that was just, you know, a letterist I can give easier because there's such an art to that too. I've learned, but yeah, I want to delegate more and when I can, but you know,
yeah, you'll be able to get a lot more done that way too, especially
and
over time I'm sure you'll find people that you can trust as well, and then that's
you sync up,
an awesome
and
relationship.
Well, Jeremy the colorist is fantastic, and Brian the letterist was great too. So they're coming back on issue 2, so I'm gonna bring them back because they did such a great job. Like his coloring is beautiful, and it really makes my art look even better. So I can't deny that.
And you've been so do you want to tell us more about that project, about Bounty Bullfrog?
Right.
Yeah, sure. So so Bounty Bullfrog was this comic I created when I was like 15.
Okay.
It came from my love of Ninja Turtles, and it came from my love of like Simon Bisley's art mixed with Lobo. I was really big on Lobo at the time. Any of that stuff was just crazy cool to me.
Yeah, you're definitely a 90s guy.
Oh yeah. So I definitely I paid homage to like that kind of stuff in the comic. There's even a couple of scenes in the first issue where I give like a little homage of like he's fighting Bounty Bullfrog's fighting these characters called the Mole Ninjas. They're called the Plague, and he's fighting them into a sewer, and there's like a silhouette of a Ninja Turtle in the background, kind of like peeking around the corner. But just like little things like that, just to pay him homage. But yeah, I created when I was 15. I made like 2 different comics of it that were like 8 pages long. You know, something a 15-year-old would create. Makes no sense story-wise. It's just cool, badass drawing scenes.
And cool fight scenes.
Yeah, you know, it's just like something just like, yeah, this guy's missing an arm. This is cool. Yeah. So I really wanted to get back to that character, and for many years I've been wanting to do something with him. And it just made sense to try to take advantage of the COVID situation. Because like, again, like 2016, I started making comics again. And one of the first things I did was a book called AI Wars. And it's like my love tribute to like Contra, Metroid, and Aliens mixed together into one over the top action. Rob Liefeld shoulder pads with extra pouches and giant ridiculous guns that make no sense, fighting weird spider alien creatures.
Yeah, you're definitely from the 90s.
Oh, come on. So like, you know, it just made sense to just make this love tribute comic, and I kickstarted the first 2 issues, and after that, Caliber picked it up and they loved it and they wanted to do a graphic novel of it. So I put that out, and then I told myself, all right, well, when 2020 hits, like I want to focus more on making comics. Like if I can try to make more comics this year and be home more than being at shows, because like I said, I've been doing shows for so long, it's just kind of burned me out. And I wanted to be home more because my kids are getting older, and you know, I want to be around them all the time. And so I didn't know my wish was going to be that crazy, where suddenly
COVID. So you're the reason.
You're the
yeah,
one. Yeah.
like I feel bad. Like, did my wish really go that out of control? Like suddenly no one's allowed to go out of their
cons.
house. That's not what I meant. I just
The year of no cons.
I just wanted to be home. Not everyone to be home, but it's worked out really nicely. So I spent that time trying to make several different ideas, and I ended with Bounty being the main focus. Like, and so around August, September, I was getting ready for it. And September to October, we did the actual Kickstarter. So I think I was asking $6,500 for it, because Kickstarters and Indiegogos were really bringing up a lot of revenue, because people have been home and they want to be supportive to artists. And you know, it really made me happy to see a lot more people bringing out like their creator-owned comics. And so it just made sense to like, here's this opportunity to get this book out there. So I was asking $6,500 for it, and we got a little over $8,500. So it did really well. It took
That was just the first issue.
That's just for the first issue.
Okay.
So it took a little bit longer to make than I wanted to, but I finished it up, went to the printers around April, and beginning of May I got it back, and I've been shipping out ever since, getting it done. So I'm working out. I fleshed out the story for the next 4 or 5 issues.
Okay.
So I'm getting it ready for issue 2, which should drop middle of July. So we're shooting for middle of July for issue 2's campaign on Kickstarter. So,
and then is it going to take just as long to print, you think, as issue 1, or have you streamlined that process?
Well, the printing won't be the problem. I think for me, what took me the longest was fleshing out the story idea, and then because like,
okay, so when you go to Kickstarter, like when you go through the actual process of Kickstarter, you don't have the whole story done yet.
So that was the idea too.
Okay.
That was the thing, is like, you can be one of those people where, like, when I did AI Wars, and I did the first 2 Kickstarters for issue 1 and 2, I only Kickstarted once the book was completely done. That was my way of like being like, hey, it's done. All we need.
That's how I thought. Yeah, that's how I thought it was supposed to be done that way. Okay.
There's plenty of people though that do Kickstarters where they will just be like, hey, here's the first 8 pages that I have for this idea. If you want to support it, like, this is how much it is, this is what we need, and then let's get it made. And that was kind of that idea for this. Like, I didn't want to really, like, I wanted to invest into it, but I wasn't going to be like heavily invested if it wasn't going to be something people weren't interested in. Like, it would be like one of those, another side project to put off on the side kind of thing. And so when I saw that it was doing really well, it was kind of that whole like reality moment of just like, oh shit, like, I gotta make this now. Like, this is fantastic. Like, people love it. And I mean, I've gotten people who have made me custom figures for it.
I saw those on your Instagram.
Yeah. He made a claymation trailer. This Austin Williams, fantastic. He does really cool claymation videos. He made a claymation video trailer for me, which blew my mind. And my buddy Matthew Holland, who did these custom character toys for me. And so just the love that people have given for this character they've only seen 8 pages of just blew me away. So I'm very grateful and surprised that a lot of people like it. I'm happy, you know. A part of me wants to be like, I knew it was gonna be like this, but the other part's just like still in shock that people enjoy it. So hopefully by
cool.
when everyone got the first issue, they really enjoyed it too. So.
And so you said you have the next couple issues kind of like lined out already, and so
right, yeah,
okay,
yeah. So I knew going into that it was also like, okay, I don't want to sit with my finger up my butt trying to figure this out later. Like I need to flush this out now. Like how many pages each issue, how, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So I've got the basic outline for everything and the characters I'm introducing and all that stuff. But it was just that. And then I also introduced, like, one of the rewards was you could be like a background character in the book, or you could be an interactive character, or you can die in the comic. So it was also trying to like give people what they deserve for those things, you know. Like for the death scenes, I wanted to make sure they at least were on a page or two, and not just like, here you are in the corner of this one panel getting killed, you know. Like I wanted, like, you have some face time, you're like, you know, guy number 4 that dies in the movie, you know. Like I wanted something like that, not just if you look behind him, my arm gets cut off. I didn't want that. So they also got the original page for it, so I wanted to make sure that they got some screen time, so to speak. So it was a matter of just trying to kind of wiggle all that into play. So with future stories for the rest of the series, I've got random characters that interact with the main characters. So those will be characters that people can, you know, buy into the series and stuff like that. So it's a lot more laid out now than starting it, because like I said, like I didn't know where to go with it, and I wasn't expecting it to do as well. So
that's really cool. Yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
That's good to hear, man.
So we are getting close to that hour mark, so let's go through a couple quicker questions. What would be like one of your dream franchises to work on?
I would say Turtles, but well, and side note real quick, that was another thing is like trying to get work with them to do Turtles was so frustrating, because you know everyone loves Turtles. So
yeah,
it was one of those things where like, okay, well, if I can't do Turtles, then I'm gonna make my own damn Turtles book. And so that's kind of what this is. The Bounty is my version of that, because that's what he was when I was 15, and why not bring that back? But if I couldn't, I'd love a Ghost Rider book. I'd like hard horror.
Who's your Ghost Rider? Blaze? Is it Johnny Blaze?
No, because see, I'd want Blaze in it. I would have to go with Daniel. I forgot his Danny. I'm horrible. Look at me. I can't even tell you. Ghost Riders.
Danny Ketch.
Yeah,
yes.
Ketch. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
That's right. I'm not a big Ghost Rider fan, so
maybe I'll have someone co-write it with me. So then I'm just drawing it, dude. I'm just
okay. What's about Ghost Rider that you liked about it? Was it just the aesthetic, or like
I've really gotten back into like one of the books I grew up with was like Spirits of Vengeance series that Adam Kubert did, and Larry Hama, was he writing that too? I can't remember. Larry wrote so much Marvel stuff in the early 90s, but I was really big on that series, and I've really recently gotten back into the Spirits of Vengeance line, and probably like within the last 2 years, and just trying to buy up any of the books I can find, and that whole storyline with Blade and the Night Stalkers and all the Morbius, and how they intertwined those storylines to try to make those horror characters fit. So I would go really hard with the horror, because I feel like the stuff I'm seeing right now with Ghost Rider is just kind of still trying to make him a superhero. Yeah. I like the Mark Texeria and Adam Kubert stuff. I felt they really nailed the horror aspect of that character.
So what can you talk more about like what you would add to it that you're not seeing currently?
Like I said, I think I would just go back to the roots of it with the horror, like especially
Just finding like Dracula and stuff like that.
Yeah, just like bring some horror back to
Werewolf
it.
by Night and all that stuff.
Like, I feel like the coloring's beautiful on it, but at the same, yeah, Werewolf by Night, bring that shit in. Maybe get, even have Moon Knight guest star. Like I love that stuff. That shit was cool, but what I see now is just too superhero-y. Like I think like Cosmic Ghost Rider seems cool. Like I don't have time to read comics, so I have no idea what they're really doing. But every time I do go into the shop, I will look at I'll flip through a Ghost Rider book and I'll just be like, what's that over there? Let me just, because I'm just bored. It just looks boring. It just looks the stereotypical Marvel styles that is now Marvel comic character artists now. I don't know. I just, like I said, like that raw, gritty style is what I draw and what I love. And Mark always hit that, and so did Adam, and even Andy when he was drawing Ghost Rider. Andy Kubert, the brothers, they were doing good. It was good. That's what I bring back. Bring it to the roots of the horror.
Gotcha.
What are some of your current goals besides your current Kickstarters for your Bounty Bullfrog book?
Continue to just, I want to be home making comics. Like for a long time, it was just being home, being able to make art for a living, and I'm very lucky to do that. And so making comics now is that's what I've always loved. That's what I've always wanted. And so I want to continue making those comics. So I'm trying to push for that for 21, 22, and so on for the following years. But finding a good indie publisher for Bounty would be cool. And that's the two main goals, I think. Just making comics and finding a good publisher for the books. Because I have this whole world of these characters I introduce in Bounty and how they can be spin-off series. So it's like it's like almost like its own little world, you know. And I want to do that, but I got to see what I can do first with getting a publisher, because I can only go so far on my end, and I know my limitations to a degree. So I'm not one of those like crazy out there guys. It's like, I just don't get the point. I know that, well, this is as far as I can go before I need to pass it off to somebody. And that's what I want.
Cool.
Are you still taking commission work?
Yeah. I'm actually right now doing, speaking of Ninja Turtles, I'm doing this thing for the whole month of June into July right now. I've called it the Summer of Turtles. And of course I do it on the same month of Pride. I'm like, oh, I don't want people to think that I'm taking away from Pride month or anything, but maybe I could do a Pride Ninja Turtles drawing.
Pretty dope.
Yeah.
So yeah, like it's Summer of Turtles for the whole month of June, and it's a drawing a day. So I'm doing a drawing a day of different Ninja Turtle characters. People can go to the website, my website, which is jasonflowersart.bigcartel.com. You can
save the plugs to the end.
They can pick a day that's available, and still available because the first half of the month is gone and those have all been picked. And they can choose whatever character from the Ninja Turtle universe, and I'll draw it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And I still have several other commissions and stuff, but those are the main ones.
All
right. I got a couple of lightning round questions. Seamus, do you have any other major questions for Jason?
No,
all right, we'll go into the lightning round portion. All right, Jason, favorite publisher? Who's your big?
Oh no! Right now it's Scout Comics.
Okay.
I think Scout's been pretty cool. Yeah.
Why Scout? What are they doing?
I think they're just being very smart with the way they're making indie comics. They've got like Black Caravan, which is doing really great with the horror comics, and I I love seeing horror comics come back. That's been really hard to see that. A lot of
They were really absent for many years and all that.
yeah. So it's great to see that stuff coming back, because it's few and far between. But before them, for a while, it was IDW, and now they've kind of trickled off into this weird direction. But Scout's been really good. They even came up with one where it's called a battle damage box, where they were taking all their damaged comics, and for like $25, you can get 25 damaged comics. If you just, if you don't care about the value of them,
no, I just want to read.
I just want to read comics, and
yeah,
like I do collect a couple of things, but you know, overall, I just want to read them. So they have it where you can get 25 random comics, and they sent me a package because they were having like a writing contest, and I ended up being one of the five writing winners. And so I got this awesome package of 25 cool Scout comics, and it's 25 different titles, so it's really cool. I love what they're doing. I just think they're very creative with all that stuff, and a lot of the titles are actually pretty decent too. So
what do you actively collect? Like, what's your
Ninja Turtles?
This is Ninja Turtles.
Ninja Turtles and like I said, like toys and stuff. I rarely get to go to the comic shops anymore. I hate that, but I've been picking up some of the Scout comics when I can, and a lot of the horror stuff. So it's just when I can go. It's hard not getting the time to. So.
What's your favorite comic line?
I'm sorry?
What's your favorite comic line, like story, like Avengers, X-Men, Spawn?
I'd have to say the Ghost Rider Spirits of Vengeance.
Okay.
That's really cool. It's intertwined. Like I said, it's intertwined between like 4 different titles, you know, like they always do with the Marvel stuff. So I think it's really cool. It's good horror.
What's your favorite character to draw?
That's a tough one, man. That's like picking ice cream.
That's the next question. So
you can do you can do like a top 5 if you want. That's easier.
Yeah. What's your favorite non-turtle character?
Favorite turtle character is
Raphael. Okay. And what about your favorite non-turtle character?
I like Muckman and Mondo Gecko.
Okay.
Casey Jones.
Okay, yeah, Casey. Yep. All right. Who's your favorite turtles? Like Raphael?
Raphael, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And then when you actually get the chance to read comics, do you prefer to read them as trade paperbacks or individual comic issues?
That's a good question. I'm more like, I do like the individual ones. If I'm more like one of those like dollar box guys, like, because I love flipping through that stuff, and that's a good way to like read a new book if I see it without having to invest too much into it. But I go both ways. I don't have a specific preference. I mean, I've got like, if I could pan.
How many long boxes?
I've got like 3 or 4 shelves here of just nothing but graphic novels. So
yeah,
love graphic novels. Because for a long time, a lot of indie comics were just graphic novel format. So I do love the graphic novels, but if I can grab it as a single issue, I don't mind. I have no preference.
Gotcha.
I'm not big on digital though. Like,
yeah, I can't do digital comics.
Digital comics.
You need that paper feel in your hand. It's not the same.
Like, I need to feel it. I'm one of those weirdos that likes to smell the
it. Yep.
Yes. It smells good. Smell this, honey.
One last question. Any words of wisdom for anyone aspiring to get into the comic industry? Anything you might be able to give them some word of advice?
Have a thick skin. I mean, you're gonna hear yes and you're gonna hear no on a lot of stuff. So be prepared to take criticism constructively, as long as it's constructively. Just be prepared for that. Draw if that's what you want to draw. If that's what you want to do. If you want to write. That's the, because you get asked that, like, well, what's the best way to make things, how do I get better? It's just like, just do it. Like, it took, like I said, it wasn't until like 2016 or so before, like, it was like, I gotta just do this shit. Like, stop fucking around, just make these books. And I'm just sitting here going, oh, this person's doing this and that person's doing that. And, you know, like, all right, well then do it. So just do it. Just do it. Like Shia LaBeouf. Like, it really is. It's true. Like,
we completely agree with you. A lot of people, they'll go stagnant. They'll hold off forever. They'll say, oh, I'll do it next week. I'll do it next week. And you can. There's only so much time.
Even if it's just a little bit, just to get it going. Just start it.
Jason, it's been an absolute blast having you on the podcast tonight.
No, I enjoyed it.
We really do appreciate it. Where can our listeners find more of you, more of your work, your websites? Where can they buy your comics at?
Well, you can find my comic books on my website at jasonflowersart.bigcartel.com. It's just my Big Cartel website, and then I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. I'm about to open a TikTok. My daughter convinced me to open a TikTok account, so it's all under Jason Flowers Art, well, one word, Jason Flowers Art. But yeah, TikTok. I'm intrigued.
Well, best of luck in that venture.
Yeah, thanks a lot for coming on, Jason.
It was
awesome.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're cool. You're a really cool guy. So
yeah,
definitely.
I tried.
Enjoyed it.
All right, one last question. Favorite ice cream? Go.
Death by chocolate.
Oh, there we go. All right, Jason. Have a great night, buddy.
All right, you too, guys.
Night,
I appreciate it.
Take it easy, bro.